Monster Sanctuary has been doing fantastic on my channel. I normally get an embarrassing, we'll say, 5 views, but I'm getting at least 100 on these episodes. So I definitely need to answer some of the questions I've been getting. One of the interests is what my skill trees and equipment might be. So let's take a look at that today. Let's talk about our first 3 monsters in the lineup. They are an Ornithopter, a Polterofen, and a Goblin Pilot, and they can all be found in the Mystical Workshop. So we'll talk about Hargrave. So these are his base stats with the skills that I've selected and the food that I've fed him. The reason I fed him 3 bananas is that bananas will give him a flat bonus to health. You'll notice that if you look at his health stat, he's got 2 bars for being an Ornithopter and 1 bar for being a light shifted. That's what the yellow indicates. It's right here. So this is his life rating or health rating. Because of this, I feel that health is his worst stat, so I will give him health food to compensate for that. You always have the choice of making your guys more well-rounded or continuing to leverage something that they're good at. So if, for example, I could have maybe leveraged more defense to try to make him as tanky as possible. I don't necessarily think that's a good idea. When it comes to defense and health, I think having a good mix of the both of them is the best. Now, as far as equipment goes, for his weapon, he's got a Scepter +5. The reason for this is I feel that he needs more mana regeneration, because if I want to use his ultimate, which is, let's see here, Arcane Barrage, he does not have enough mana by the time his turn comes up. Because I've selected for him a single target ultimate, I save him for the 3rd round, to finish off whatever strong monster is left. Because of that, he needs to have enough mana to cast it on the 3rd round. So that's why he has a Scepter. It's to get more mana regen. These 3 stats, or these 3 accessories, exist to give him more debuff options. It's ludicrous. It's not really the best thing to do, especially the Poison Dart. I should probably toss that. But like I realistically should change the Poison Dart for something that gives him more health. But I just really like the idea of giving him all the accessories to debuff an enemy. It's just a fun concept for me. I don't know if it'll make it to the final cuts for one of the previous episodes. I don't think it will, because I have this huge stammering problem, so I always have to edit my videos very thoroughly. But when I was creating Hargrave at the time during the live recording, I was just laughing at the concept of how Hargrave is just going to get owned and punished for daring to have 3 offensive accessories. He's just a very fragile creature. He dies very quickly. Alright, so here's Hargrave's abilities. Realistically, when I create a monster, I try to pick one of the 2 or 3 skill lines that go to the bottom. So for example, instead of picking Whirlwind, I went ahead and picked Gale because I was more interested in a hit all enemy ability. So that's like 2 or 3 skill points spare. I try to get 1 hit all and 1 single target, but that's generally about it. So this I get, for example, I wouldn't have gotten it at all if I wasn't going to get Charging Shield. However, it's still good for removing buffs. I feel really weird saying buffs. I always have. I've never played like World of Warcraft or anything, so people saying tanks and buffs and all that just makes me feel weird, because it's not something I'm used to as a language. And when you say buff, I'm picturing like someone taking like a buffer and just like I go ahead and look at the following things. When I start off a character, I look at whatever their specialties might be, such as critical mass, and I decide, do I want those abilities? If so, I need to pick a line of specialties. I looked at this and I said, like, I'm okay with not having Tailwind, but critical mass, I want that. 50% chance to get a random buff when landing a crit. Good, I like that. So I definitely want to go at least to here. I also see that this is his good all attack, or all enemies attack, so I will go ahead and get Gale level 3. So with critical mass, we get that random buff. Then we also get another chance for random buff. And doing that, we get 2 combo buffs if we succeed at any of those. So that's a lot of bonuses.
Now that's a lot of damage!
So here's my best single target attack. This is a really good single target attack, but I figured I didn't need that once I got this ultimate. His ultimate, Arcane Barrage, for me at least, for the way I've got my team set up, is a great filler or role for single target damage instead of making him focus on area damage. The other 2 characters will focus on area damage. But I didn't get something like this. I don't go and get every single unusual or special ability. I get many of them, however, because I'm building a character to leverage that monster's powers. So for example, I did not get Concealed, and I did not get Evasion. And for Wind Allegiance, I really like this kind of stuff, where it converts all my neutral attacks to a certain element. So this means that if there's an enemy that is resistant to wind, he's no longer resistant to my damage. In addition, any of my neutral damage still does effectively neutral damage. The short version is I can only benefit. So this is definitely worth the skill point right there. Let's take a look at the next monster. So if you take a look at Bran, you'll see that he's actually got well-rounded stats. His health is not bad. He has less health than Hargrave actually, because I have not fed him bananas. I have instead fed him peanuts. So in his case, I've given him, I decided to go the opposite route of Hargrave. Rather than making him more well-balanced, I continue to leverage his highest stat. The reason for that is this ability right here. When applying a buff, also apply a shield equal to 30% of this monster's defense. So when we take a look at his skills later, we will talk about why I am applying a shield for Bran. Because I'm stacking his defense, he gets a large shield. You can see down here that it gives him a huge 140 defense bonus. He has a cauldron to allow debuffs to become 10% more effective. When it says unique aura, I believe that is interpreted as cannot be stacked. That's the way I interpret it. So if you see an enemy with an aura that says, I don't know, 5% bonus to stats, and you have another monster that has 5% bonus to stats, it should mean that you can stack them. So for example, this aura burn, I think this means that if I had 2 Polterofens, that I could get 4 additional stacks on the enemies. Alright, so anyways, because this is my main burn guy, he can hold on to the cauldron. When Bran is defeated, I no longer need to worry about getting flame damage on the enemy. That I don't benefit from that as much. So it's a good it's a good match to put it on him. He gets a hide in order to get his health up. You notice that now he has a respectable amount of health. He gets a tome for his mana regen. Again, I felt that he really needed, in order to pull off his ultimate and other abilities in a reliable manner, he just needs enough mana and mana regen to get that out there. First off, we'll talk about his ultimate. I have him sharing the same ultimate as Dakka, my Goblin Pilot, which is Rocket Launch. Bran already does significant fire damage for all enemies here and for single enemies here. So I would rather him have an option to hurt enemies that are resistant to fire. So this is it right there. I also decide on getting Coal Toss. This is the tree I don't really specialize in. You want to try to specialize a monster in about 2 trees, maybe 3. But you'll stretch yourself a little thin if you go for all 4 trees. No monster can have all the trees memorized under normal circumstances. So you can see how many skills I have left over or not selected, even though I've maxed my level and used the skill potion. So you want to pick carefully. Like, it'd be great if I could have like all of these, but that's not going to happen. So I need to decide. In my case, I'm deciding on raising his defense. So you can see at the very top of the screen that he has 2 defense pluses. So here's these 2 defense pluses, and then here's his 2 for light bonuses. It gives him an extra 4 defense on top of what a normal Polterofen would have. I do that because he gets many bonuses related to his defense. Let's take a look at some of these things. So his healing skills. Every time he does something healing, he will get a shield at about 20% of that healing. When he gets mana every turn, he'll get double that in health. Combine these 2, bam! Look at that. And he's got 2 transfusions. Improved mana regeneration makes all of that better. So these are definitely good skills. I didn't get mana plus again because I'm short on skills. All right, I might, for example, pull out multi-barrier and defensive presence, perhaps. So, I don't know. If he gets more mana regen, he will get more of those things. This will result in an extra 24 health right there. In fact, because I've got 2 transfusions, that's an extra 24 health per transfusion. And then not only that, if he equips any sort of mana item, he gets 25% more bonus. If you're not sure where to start with those kind of things, the icon of the skill is always a good start. So that's a tome. He's actually equipped with a tome. He's also equipped with a cauldron. That's another reason. So with that cauldron, it gives him more mana and a 10% damage debuff, or 10% more effective debuffs. We've got things like overcast and charging shield, mana charging. So we could start seeing where this charging is starting to take place. If we also take a look, is Utopia. Every monster in the party gains 3 charge stacks at the start of each turn. So this really helps the Goblin Pilot build up to 15 much faster. In the first turn, I will not have 15 charges, so Thunderstorm is not in the cards for me. But by the second turn, I will. Bran is actually, he's kind of a cross between the support that Hargrave is and the damage that Dakka is. Here's how he does that. Besides giving himself charge, he can burn the enemy, that's obvious, but with every fire attack, I can stack that burn, and then every time an enemy burns, everybody gets more health, or everybody gets more shield. Now for him, because he's getting so much shield from all his other abilities, he will blast the enemy with his shield and do extra damage. I've tried to build shield monsters that charge their shields up and then hit the enemy. It just took way too long. With this actually works really well because he's spending his turn actively attacking the enemy at full blast like a normal monster would, but he's charging up a shield in addition to that. So he's doing normal 100% monster damage, and then he's secretly stacking a shield. When I before tried to create this kind of combo, where I would just have a monster cast shield spells and then blow up with volatile shield, it just wasn't paying off. I was just better off attacking the enemy. In this case, Brand has got it. So he's got things like shield aura, which increases my effects, hybrid shield, so he's constantly building up shields and charges and burning the enemy down to the ground. Brand is very, very useful for his miscellaneous damage, whereas Hargrave is very, very useful for his support. We have all of these amazing abilities, and they all revolve around his defense. So that's why I built my brand around defense in this case, rather than mana, because with all that defense goes into his shield, which then comes out as offense. Alright, last dude, we have Dakka. He is continuing to stack defense. By stacking that defense, I get more benefit. So for Dakka, he is my damage dealer of the group. So he gets a moon sword. Now this moon sword has incredible magic and power. The reason why he needs magic is this ability here, magical damage win. Without it, he only would have 133 attack power for magic, or 133 magic power. That's not much, because it's only one bar, understandably. The reason why he has this ability is there's an actual, let's see here, where is this? Supercharged. When he gets 15 stacks, which will typically happen on the second turn on, he can start dishing out magic damage. So his 433 magic will add 693 attack on top of it. So now it'll be like 1,100 attack power. You combine that with the fact that this is 250% magical damage, and that just ramps up that damage significantly. If you compare that to his ultimate, that's 330% physical damage. But that would be 330% of 700. This is going to be 250% of 1,100. So this is a huge bonus to me by stacking those kind of ideas together. So that's why he has a moon sword instead of just like a straight up physical attack ability. I'm continuing to stack his defense. So to that line of thought, I give him a helmet, which will also boost his attack. Because he needs mana, I give him a medallion. So you can see a kind of trend here. I'll come up with a theme or something that I want to build on that guy, and I'll flesh it out around that idea. So for example, his final thing, because I have not yet boosted his health, I'll give him a high, which gives him both defense and health. So all these three things give him defense. It's just that the secondary stat of the helmet is attack, secondary stat of the medallion turns out to be critical damage and mana regeneration. The secondary stat of high turns out to be health. Dakka. I'm really proud of his name. I love that name for him. So Dakka is also a major defense hog. We can see here that he's got defense focus. So anything that raises his defense is going to make him much sturdier. So let's talk about his actual skills. He had following choices. Rocket launch, for the same reason that Brand uses rocket launch, Dakka will also use rocket launch. Giga Drill is a fantastic single target ability, and if I know I'm going up against a champion, such as if I go 5-star the Mad Lord, I will switch out the Giga Drill, no problem. It is a fantastic ability. Dakka's light ability is charged up. A normal charge gives you a 3% damage boost. With charged up, it says increases damage dealt, so it doesn't really tell me what that means. Maybe it's just the default damage for charge. Whatever it is, it also reduces the damage he takes, so it reduces how much mana it costs, but he can get more charges than 15. This charged up ability only lasts to 15. So if he has like 29, he can get as much as a 15% mana cost reduction. So him getting charges will really ramp up Dakka. He'll kind of get moving, he'll kind of get revving. So let's take a look at his combat abilities. I've decided on Explosive Blast, so basically an all fire attack, an all lightning or wind attack, and then a single target fire attack. I could have chosen single target wind attack, but the reason I'm going with fire is because this gives me more critical. If you take a look, this gives me bleeding, and this gives me just plain up straight critical damage. bleeding I have found useful when I'm building a theme around bleeding, such as with splatter and so forth. That's what some of my earlier mid-range videos were about when I used the mantis and the cat. Did a lot of bleeding. But in this case, I've got fire. This theme is built around setting enemies on fire. So he will hit 7 times a single target for 420% damage, and with those 7 hits, each hit has a 10% individual shot to apply burn. So between him and Bran, we've got a lot of fire going on. So even with like fuel, whenever an enemy takes burn damage, each monster in your party gains a charge stack. So I combine that with Bran's ability to set everybody on fire, and then suddenly we're just rolling in charges. Now, what are these charges good for? If we take a look, Thunderstorm, he does magical damage. But Bran's magic is only at a very, very unimpressive 1 rating right here at the top of the screen. So why am I so hooked on Thunderstorm? Well, that's because he has supercharged. As long as he's got 15 charge stacks, he will put all of his physical attack into his magic attack. So it's basically even better. Now, that being said, I'm less likely to be rolling in charges if it's against a single enemy, but against a single enemy, I'm probably better off using fiery shots. So we've got stuff like Saboteur's shield. So when he sets an enemy on fire, he's gonna get more shields. He's charging up his shields based all around his massive defense that's climbing up. You know, all these things, like at the start of combat, apply 75% of his defense as shield. And you can see that I've put in a lot of points to shield for him. And then suddenly volatile shield, whenever he decides to attack, which is pretty much every turn, half of his extra shield is gonna be thrown into the enemy for 175% of that value. So let's say at the very beginning of the game, or match, he gets 75% of his defense as shield. Alright, so that's 75% of this. That's 540 points of shield. If I then take this and I multiply that by 1.75, that's 945 points of damage right there. That's almost 1,000 free points of damage before any attack modifiers. Alright, so let's take a look at my auxiliary team. I designed this team solely around balancing my weaknesses. It just happens to perfectly fit like a jigsaw puzzle. If you look at Hargrave, he's weak to earth. Brock is strong to earth. Bran, he's weak to water. Kavoris is strong to water. If you look at Dakka, he is weak to wind and water, and Emperor is strong to water and wind. Now, again, that was not intentional on my part. I just basically wrote down, like I wrote down all the elements and I added +1 for every stat that they had a resistance to, and I put a -1 for every stat they had a weakness to. And then I went to the bottom of the monster encyclopedia and started picking out the monsters, and it's like, okay, well, this guy, he's strong to water, so I will put a +1 back in that category. I wanted to balance it out like scales or a measurement value system. So let's take a look at what these monsters are like. These monsters typically are single targets. What I mean by this is Rack's ultimate is a single target boulder toss. Kavoris, that's the crab guy, he's got a single target Giga Drill. And Emperor, he has a single target ball lightning. This is if I ever ran into a champion I wasn't ready for or something like that, I could just whip these guys out and be ready. Realistically, it's probably better if I used the exact same build, the Ornithopter, Polterofen, and Goblin Pilot, and then gave them single target ultimates, and then had the first 3, 1, 2, and 3, be area effect ultimates. So 4, 5, and 6 would be single target ultimates. Like that would probably work really well. That being said, you may not have enough accessories to do that, because some accessories are just one-off. Let's go ahead and start hitting these enemies. Didn't do a whole lot. Again, this is not my best team. This is just a way to balance out my weaknesses in case I ran into monsters I was not ready for. It looks like the Emperor is gonna die, so we'll go ahead and bust out his ultimate at this time. It is a single target damage. It does say trigger shock damage on all enemies, but that's basically saying like if enemies have shock, hit them or give them some damage. But it's still a single target ability. I need to decide which of these enemies I will hit. We'll go ahead and hit the Mad Eye. Alright, so my choices are try to finish off the Mad Eye. I mean, this will just damage him. Or do actual damage to Iraq Lich. We'll go ahead and do actual damage. So sometimes you have to balance out your choices here. Alright, so I did some severe damage with that. Excellent. So we'll go ahead and continue to try to finish off this Mad Eye. With that bleed, he should probably be dead before his next move. And there we go. Alright, that's far enough for this group. Alright, so this battle here is post-commentary, because I went through a lot of battles against the Mad Lord, not really expecting anything from it, so I wasn't really putting on my theater persona. I was just sort of mutely playing in silence. So there's still, right, so that whole explanation took about 20 minutes. I generally try to run 30-minute episodes for Monday, Wednesday, Friday episodes, hour-long episodes for Tuesday, Thursday ones. So to finish off this video, I will include the montage of me failing horribly at the Mad Lord. So you can consider this a study in the importance of an effective build, and what happens when you don't. The Mad Lord is weak to magic and physical attacks, no elemental resistances or weaknesses, but he is resistant to debuffs. So my first attempt at the Mad Lord is a damage dealing party. I grabbed the guys with the highest single target damage effects. I didn't really put too much thought into their gear or their skills. I just grabbed them and sent them at the beast to see what would happen. It didn't turn out too well. So this next battle, I bring out an old favorite squad of mine. This is one of my earliest debuffing teams, with the Mushroom, the Skeleton, and the Snake. Those aren't their actual names. Since damage dealing did not work, I thought, okay, why don't I just go ahead and try to debuff him anyways, even though he's resistant to it. I've really stacked the Hydra with lots of health equipment and I think even food. At this point I was looking to see if the Mad Lord had weakness in effect. If not, I was going to go ahead and hit him with the lighter attack that inflicts weakness. I was really not expecting to survive this at all, and then I was just completely stunned by the fact I got an Abyssal Sword. That score was an improvement. I just was definitely not expecting it. So let's take a look at the Abyssal Sword. It gives me 35 physical, 35 magical, and when attacking or getting attacked, 20% chance to gain a random buff or apply a random debuff. Let's upgrade it and see what it turns out to be at +5. Okay, it's a 240 attack power, and with a 30% chance. I should probably put it on the Hydra. Maybe. I don't think it really matters too much. I'm probably gonna unequip them before they ever see battle again. For me to get any, like, I just barely squeaked a victory on that one. For me to get a 5-star, I'm gonna have to bring out a different team anyways. Alright, for this one, this is me trying to make a bleed group. That is the light, dark, and neutral shift alignment in that order, from front to back. The neutral one, I gave the unique auras. The light and dark, I gave the best attack stats to. But I mean, it's not very. They're not built very differently from each other. I wasn't really putting a lot of thought into their equipment or their skills. In fact, I'm pretty sure they were all equipped with the same things, like cape, coat, and some other object, maybe like a katana or something. Again, I really didn't put any thought into this gear. Basically, at this point, I'm just trying to find out what works, and then I was going to build something around it. Now, when you use items in the Infinity Arena, you get them all back at the conclusion of Infinity Arena. When you use items fighting the champion monsters, you do not get them back. For this first trip with these Setsunes or Setsuns, I used Slash because I was looking to make bleed happen. I later changed to Fiery Stabs because that gives me more hits. The reason why I picked Slash was because it has 465% physical damage and Fiery Stabs has 425% when they're both at max level. I've never seen a bleed stack that high before at 153. The Dark Setsune has the special bonus of bleed out, the enemy does not lose its bleed stacks. So while I was victorious here, I did not yet 5-star this. So let's try that again. I mean, that's a new record. It's not enough though. So with this one, I went and pulled off the neutral alignment one and put in my spinner. The spinner has deep wounds as an aura, which allows bleed effects to do more damage. So he won't be doing as much, he won't be adding as many bleed stacks as the Setsune will, but he will make all existing bleed stacks more painful. And additionally, as I said, I swapped out my slash attack for more fiery stabs. This way, because I figure I'm relying more on the bleed for damage rather than the little bit of extra damage I might squeeze out with slash. I just picked everything that had bleed. I just went through it really fast. I slapped on some gear that gave me critical chance, and maybe like I don't even remember if I've added any defensive gear or not. There was nothing very special about their equipment. I mean, these are not the only 3 fights I've done on the Mad Lord. Alright, well there we go. Achievement lock, practice makes perfect. Nice. Demonic Pact, required to evolve certain monsters. So yeah, that's pretty obviously meant for the Mad Lord. Alright, so now we'll go on to live commentary. Alright, we're gonna hatch a light Mad Eye, because I want Supremacy on this one. It might not be the best choice, but we'll try. We'll evolve the Demonic Pact into a Mad Lord. Take a look at him. He gets Supremacy, so whenever an allied monster applies a debuff, it gains 2 charge stacks. I assume it also applies to him. So all of these things apply charge stacks. Which will, he also gets attack and more mana than the dark version. The dark version gets magic bonus. The big clincher, I guess is the phrase, that had me decide I was going to be light for this guy, was each physical attack triggers an additional hit equal to 50% of attack value. The dark version gets magic attack power, and the light version gets more physical attack power. So I will have him use mostly physical attacks. So instead of, for example, Firestorm, we'll make sure that he's using Igniting Stings. Let's see here. He does have a physical attack that hits all enemies, so he's okay with other options. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and bring him up to speed. Level badge. And give him a 40. And then we'll just can him a skill potion on top of all of that. Don't really need any of that. I can always reskill him to be single target. I might make him single target. In fact, it's pretty much champions I need to worry about. Well, that being said, he really needs to use physical attacks to get the most mileage, so it's fine. If I need to, I'll just use a skill reset. I've got hundreds of them. Let's take a look. What? Take that. For 60, 450, so this is slightly more damage. Take this. Yeah, additionally mana proc, the light version gets more mana. Yeah, it's good enough for now. Alright.